Dr. Edwards, before we get started, our listeners would love to learn a little bit more about you. Please share a little bit about your background, what you do, and more importantly, why you do it.
Well, I'm really excited to share on health and wellness. My background is in healthcare. I'm a physician, fully trained in the British system. I did my first degree here in the United States, what they call pre-med. I did a Bachelor of Science at Morehouse College, majored in biology and psychology. I was a double major with a minor in music, played the piano. So that laid my foundation, and then I went on to do an MBBS in London, which is the University of London degree that I hold. Program set up through the British system is a 5-year training to become a physician in London versus the 4 years here in the United States to become an MD. So I hold 2 degrees, one in general medicine and another one in general surgery. So I've basically been fortunate to study on both sides of the fence. I hold 1 degree from the United States at Morehouse College, the alma mater of Dr. Martin Luther King. And so I'm very proud to be established with that lineage. And I also hold degrees from London. So I basically find myself in a very unique position, holding 2 sets of degrees, both in the American system of medicine as well as in the British. And this has given me a unique perspective. I now also find myself in the unique position of entering into the wellness sphere because I left the hospital 8 years ago, fully trained as an MD, seeing that I could make more of an impact in wellness. I will return to that when I get home. I have a practice waiting for me. It's been offered to me by my physician that trained me. He mentored me. He was one of my external examiners in London. And so I have that practice waiting when I return. But right now my focus is on the Mangosteen and its research. And I've dedicated 10 years of my life to this work. And so I'm really excited to share uniquely in this aspect of wellness as opposed to disease prevention and sickness.
I love it, and I want to applaud you for helping to lead the way in what we're calling today the natural health revolution. And I see more and more people that are learning more about health care versus sickness care. That's a big subject today. What do you say to people, though, who are still concerned about the cost of natural supplements?
Well, this is something that I constantly hear in the field, and it shocks me, quite frankly. As a physician, as an MD, looking at this, people spend countless dollars on frivolous things, shoes, sweet drinks, coffee, sodas, sweet tea, eating out and dining, buying Nikes and Jordans, things that have no impact on our greater health. And they have no problem doing that. But if you ask them to supplement on a natural health supplement that's going to help their health and keep them alive to wear the Nikes and the shoes and all the shopping gear that they're getting, they suddenly tell you how expensive it is. But the $100 Nike on their foot is not expensive, and the $1,000 dress that they're wearing to the prom is not expensive. And the breast job, nose job, and every other type of cancer and surgery that they do on their cosmetic presentation is cheap compared to them somehow finding that money to spend it on prevention in the first place with healthy supplements like Mangosteen and Moringa that I'm going to talk about today. So I think it's about priority. It's where we put our emphasis. It's where we spend our money. We have to start taking the onus of our own health into our own hands and looking to spend money proactively versus waiting until we get sick and running to a doctor after the fact and expecting a miraculous tablet to turn around 20 to 30 years of illness overnight, which has become our expectation. And this is why supplementing to me is cheap. It is cheap because what I just told you represents a whole host of frivolous things that we spend money needlessly on every day and don't even think about it. But if we ask that same individual to not spend that $1,000 dress and to buy a supplement, they tell you how expensive it is. And when I get on the scene, the first thing I have to do with that patient is rip off that $1,000 dress to get to that heart that they neglected when they failed to drink their Mangosteen and Moringa.
Wow, that's powerful. As a medical doctor, what do you think about the current health care costs and how they impact each of us?
Well, when I look at healthcare costs as a doctor, I realize that this is another area that we all get affected in. And whether we realize it or not, it affects where we live. It affects our choices. It affects the level of care that we can afford. It affects what doctor we see. It affects what hospital plan we can join. It affects if we get Obamacare, Trump care, or anybody else's care, because all of that comes down to price. And so it all comes into a factor, and you have to look at it when you're looking at lifestyle versus hospital bills later. This is something that I think everybody should be looking at, not just when we get older, not just when we get sick, but this is something healthcare costs affect us all. It even affects where we retire. Can we leave our healthcare state that we're in? Some of us only have plans that cover us in the state of California, or it may only cover us in the state of Texas. So if I want to pick up at an older age and move to see my mother or live with my grandparents in Miami, I may not be able to do that. Why? Because my health care plan limits me to the state in which I'm covered in. And so I can't make that move as much as I would like to. And now I'm robbed of spending time with my family and retiring with my family because I'm bound to a health care plan that limits me in the state in which I live. So it even affects our freedom of choice and our ability to retire in the places that we may want to retire. Healthcare costs are huge, and this is something that's only, I think, going to continue to rise. So we have to look at it, and it's something that everyone should be mindful of when they're looking at supplementing and aware that this is something that we all have to make choices around and hopefully make smart and educational choices. We have to take our health back. We have to claim our health back, and we have to realize that we don't want to live a life of limitation and spend our retirement spending all the money we made in our whole lives trying to recoup health that we could have prevented for spending a small amount of money up front, maybe $1 to $2 to $3 a day in prevention, versus spending our entire paycheck way after the fact in trying to recover those losses.
Wow, I was going to ask you what you think about the future. Are they going to get better or worse? You kind of answered that, but what can we do about it?
Well, when I look at what we're doing here, I think this is something that we have to start looking at physically ourselves. We have to start taking the onus of our own health into our own hands. We have got to start saying, look, what can I do, each of us at the grassroots level, to tip the scales of health in my favor? I can't wait for the government. I can't wait for Social Security. I can't wait for Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare, Trump care, somebody else's care to come in and bail me out of my health situation. What can I do today in a proactive mode on a daily basis for a small amount of money, maybe $3 to $4 a day, in prevention mode versus spending that same money on frivolous entities that get me nowhere closer to a better health? I'm buying coffee, tea, sweet drinks, artificially flavored drinks, high fructose corn syrup, and all these other nonsense that we spend money on, and I'm not spending any dollars each day in a preventative mode on a supplement, which should be where my money should be going. But most people don't see this until it's too late and until they have a problem. And so where do I see this going? I see it just skyrocketing higher and higher. We see that the average hospital stay is about $1,700 a day, so you don't want to end up in hospital. That's $1,700 a day to be in a hospital. And if you spend 5 days in the hospital, you're looking at about $8,500 worth of expense just to be in the hospital any at all. So what am I saying? It behooves you to prevent and supplement right now so that you don't have to go down the road of spending those same dollars in the hospital and an $8,500 bill later when you could have spent that same money and bought you a ton of product that could have avoided that in the first place. So we got to start looking at it from that angle. When we get that point, when we understand that point, then it no longer seems expensive. The supplement is no longer expensive. It is cheap because no supplement costs $8,500 for 5 days in hospital. If you spend a fifth of that on the supplement, that supplement is cheap. Because what is the alternative? $8,000 for a 5-day visit in hospital, $1,700 for a simple hospital visit every day. That's what we have to look at. And that's why I think this problem is only going to continue to skyrocket. There's inflation. Healthcare costs aren't coming down. Nobody can find a solution. We see what's happening on Capitol Hill right now. They're trying to fix the problems. Nobody has an answer. And so it would behoove us all to start looking to bring down healthcare costs by seeing what each of us can do on a day-to-day basis to limit those expenses and curtail those risks by supplementing proactively right now with a supplement with a botanical that is shown to be effective and cost-effective compared to what we're going to spend later if we ignore this.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I would really love for you to share with our listeners. You talk a lot about the 5 key healthcare cost factors that we should all consider as we get older. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, I mean, these are some things that I've noticed when we were looking through some medical literature. I've noticed that, some of us don't think about this, but as you get up in age, you should be asking yourself, who is going to care for you? Who is going to be able to pay for your bills? Are you going to rely on your family, your aunties, uncles, relatives, nephews, nieces to foot your bill because you didn't cover yourself and look at this matter until you ran into problems? Women who outlive their spouse, most women outlive their spouse, are you prepared to pay more because you're going to live longer? That's the statistics. Most women outlive their spouse and may even live an extra decade. Have you put aside enough money to cover that? And are you supplementing now to avoid the process that comes with that? Because if you live longer, you also have to cover yourself financially for living longer, which means hopefully you're supplementing and taking care of yourself because those costs are coming to you. So women, are you prepared for that? How long will you live? None of us can answer that. But that's a question we should be looking at because, again, you have to set aside enough nest egg to cover your extra years should you live them out. Does your retirement income plan really cover what you're going to need at that age? That's another thing we need to look at. So does your retirement income plan factor in the healthcare inflation, because every year healthcare cost goes up. I just told you it's not going to come down. It's only going to increase. And we see that trend going on. If you look at healthcare costs in any book, you notice even from 2012 to about 2016, the average cost of a medical family for four was about $20,000 a year for four. And that jumped to 2016 to $25,000, almost $26,000 in just that span of time from 2012 to 2016. So you got to look at that inflation. And then finally, can you keep your doctor in your retirement? Can you stay in the state where you are? And if you should have to move, will you be able to afford that care when you lose your current doctor and your plan that covered you at that hospital? So that's something that the final question that I ask everybody to think about as they get up in age. Can you keep your doctor in retirement with the inflation cost?
Thanks. And could you talk a little bit about our health and wellness being under attack?
Yes, our health and wellness is definitely under attack. I mean, when we look at the statistics from the CDC and the National Institutes of Health and other stats, you will notice that just about everyone's health and wellness at this time in history is under attack. 6 of the top 10 causes of death are directly linked to the diet. Most people don't eat well, they don't have time, they're under pressure, and so they consume a fast food diet of convenience. And that is showing up with lots of problems down the road when we look at the current state of most people's choices. Our choices are quick and efficient, but they're leaving us in serious disease and illness. 2/3 of the world population is overweight. That's a serious statistic. 70% of the world's population is on at least one prescription med or more. Most of us consume 3 to 4 pounds of sugar per day. That's insane when you consider diabetes is at an all-time high and in epidemic proportions. And 85% of the world's population does not meet the minimum amount of exercise required per week. Even school kids now, they don't exercise. Schools can't afford PE programs and physical education like they used to. Their budgets are cut, and they're running the programs as tight as possible. So today's kids get no exercise. They don't run up and down and do any activity at school, and they're sitting on the couch at home in the evenings playing video games. So they're not physical compared to 10, 20 years ago. This is another issue, and it's leading to health problems, chronic problems at earlier ages than we ever saw in the hospital. 85% of the world's population it does not meet the minimum of exercise, and then another $3,000 is spent in the household care when you're looking at issues regarding to weight. That's weight-related costs per year, $3,000 per family. $6 trillion, the food industry, $6 trillion is estimated the size of the food industry, which makes it the largest in the world. So we have to pay attention to what we're eating, and those knives and forks are the weapons of mass destruction as we continue to kill ourselves by shoveling in the extra calories and the empty calories with no nutritional value whatsoever.
Wow, I think we're all getting a pretty clear picture of the problem, but what do you think the solution is?
When I look at this, when I look at why I left the hospital after spending 8 years in the hospital and doing everything on that side of the fence, I saw that there were new and emerging, powerful, natural solutions to these problems that were coming on stream back then. And when I say back then, I'm referring to about 2002 when I came to the United States. And I realized that a new era was coming into medicine. It was an era of complementary alternative medicine. It was an era of wellness products that were now finally coming up, botanicals that were being discovered in the Amazon rainforest and in other parts of the world at elevation in the Himalayas, etc., that were now coming onto the scene at that time that I saw held promise. And from the research and literature we saw back then, realized that it was something I could get behind and somewhere where my efforts would bring more results for my patients than just staying in the hospital and writing prescriptions. And that was the reason I decided to jump ship and come over to the wellness side of the fence proactively, as opposed to staying in the hospital on a reactive style treatment where we wait for some symptoms and 5 to 7 years of illness before we put you on a tablet and expect a miraculous drug to turn around 40 years of diabetes and 15 years of high blood pressure. It's just unrealistic. At that point, I decided to come into wellness and was lucky to stumble into Mangosteen and now Moringa as two of the leading botanicals in this area. Not the only two, but two of the leading botanicals that seem to be making an impact on people's health when we look at their labs, when we look at their research, when we look at what's going on globally in 56 plus countries. We're very impressed with what we're seeing, and that has led me to become excited and passionate about this work more so than just writing prescriptions in a hospital and staying in that realm. I will return to that realm later. As I said, I have a practice waiting for me at home, but that is really not where my excitement is, and that is not where my focus is. My research now is in wellness and focus on Mangosteen and Moringa and all antioxidants that deliver in this realm. So I hope people are realizing now that in our time, they are finally finding these discoveries that are delivering on this level. And that should excite everybody on the call. Back in the day, that was not the case, but now we can no longer say that. Because we're getting the results, and we're getting the clinical efficacy to match it
from people who are willing to share with us their changes, meaning the patient themselves is sharing the turnaround story. And that's where the power lies with this.
Great, thanks. And Dr. Edwards, we talk a lot these days about the natural health revolution. Can you tell us what that means to you and what it should mean to our listeners?
Yes, the natural health revolution is a trend. It's a trend that I mentioned to you. People are shifting. The baby boomers from 46 to 64, the millennials and all the groups are now looking to avoid the mistakes of their parents. They have seen their parents drop down with heart attacks and strokes at 40 and 50, and they're saying, hey, I don't want that to be me when I become my parents' age. That is driving a wellness revolution. That is driving a natural health revolution. We see Zeta International spearheading that simply because the trend already exists and the baby boomers want to avoid those mistakes. So they're now looking for wellness products. They're looking for anything in any form from anywhere that can help them look good, stay young, feel good, avoid the mistakes of their parents, and stay functionally and have a quality of life that extends more than their parents' years. And that, folks, is taking health and wellness to the number one spot as an industry right now in this country and indeed globally in the world. And that is the trend that's coming. And so I think now with the natural health revolution and what companies are doing to line up with this, we're seeing a trend now with the young people shifting more toward prevention and proactive taking of supplements to avoid the mistakes that mommy and daddy made 20 years ago or grandparents 40, 50 years ago. And that is what should be exciting for everybody on this call, because finally we have the botanicals and the trees and plants that can deliver now from the rainforest belt on this type of level for these individuals that are looking for these answers. And Zeta International represents such a company.
Great, thanks. Now let's talk a little bit more about these botanicals. So I know you've been studying the mangosteen since 2002, and you've done a lot of research on this superfruit. So can you share with our listeners just what is this fruit and what makes it so special?
You know, this tree is very unique. It's a very unique plant from the Southeast Asian basin and the Amazon rainforest, as I said. It requires a lot. It's a very delicate and sensitive plant, requires a lot of time to grow, sometimes up to 10 years. Some plants 5 to 7 years. The average tree can yield up to 5,000 fruits in a single year. So it's difficult to cultivate it in the West, and that's why we don't know much about it. It has come to us through the Buddhist priests and monks and the Ayurvedic folk in India that have studied it extensively. If you look at the research, if you look at the literature of mangosteen, you will notice that it is pretty predominantly found in a lot of the countries where Southeast Asian rainforest type weather exists, where they have monsoon rain for 6 months nonstop, where these types of plants can grow, and where the plant traps most of its nutrients and can keep active and deliver that potency once it is consumed into the bloodstream. So this plant is very unique. The countries of Thailand, Malaysia, Australia, Brazil, Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, Laos, China, these countries grow it actively and know it well and have taken advantage of it for over 400 years. So we are late to this party in the West, very late. And that's why we want to turn people on to this message. Whoever's got you in front of this message wants you to be aware that these cultures have already been enjoying the benefits of mangosteen for many, many years and have not had one case of a fatality. Can we say that about the prescriptions and the pharmaceutical drugs we take today, given the challenges that we face? And I'm not here to knock pills. They all have their place, and everyone needs them. But we're saying if something has delivered in cultures that know it well and have studied it extensively, over 400 years' worth, with not one fatality, this is something all of us should be looking at and something that we can all get excited about. It's been highly researched. It's been highly looked at. It's been written up in 1 million journals. Some of them I will mention later. But I can tell you, after looking at the research and the literature with this botanical, and after it only arriving in America in 2002, it would behoove everybody to do a little due diligence and look into the mangosteen. The peel is the key. It houses something called xanthones in there, and these xanthones are the key ingredients that seem to be delivering the benefits. Catechins are in there, tannins are in it, proanthocyanidins give it its color, the rich purple color on the outside. It also allows for certain other digestive benefits that come with taking it in the intestine. Lots of research on that. Quinones are found in there that help with bacteria, and still beans to help with fungal infection. So this plant is loaded with phytonutrients, and by that we mean from the Greek phyto for plants. So these are plants with nutrient value, phytonutrients, nutrients from a plant source. What is powerful about this is that all of these ingredients in the peel or rind, the xanthones, the catechins, the tannins, the proanthocyanidins, allow the body health benefits once they get into the bloodstream, and they have a 98% bioavailability, meaning almost everything gets absorbed at the cell level, at the DNA level. And that should excite everyone. And that is why we're trying to turn more people onto it, because of what we're seeing in all these cultures that are consuming it. And that's what the excitement is behind Mangosteen. And it comes to us with over 400-year history and not one fatality. That is huge. And that's yet another reason to enjoy the benefits here in the West.
Wonderful, thank you. And let's talk a little bit, you mentioned it, a little bit about the research on the mangosteen. I know there's been some research out there and a whole lot more lately. What's going on with that?
Well, you know, mangosteen has been highly researched, as I said earlier. There's about 19 countries currently researching it now. There's about 3.5 research papers per month coming out. That's an amazing amount of research. No other botanical has received this much research. It's the most highly researched botanical in the whole world where this is concerned. 3.5 papers on average of a month. Okay, we're also seeing now that drug companies are sequestering people to go and make drugs from this plant. So if the drug companies are excited about this, I can't see why you would not be. Anyone on this call. They're already sequestering scientists to make a drug from this plant because of what they're seeing. And that should let you know that it's the real deal. So why are we going to sit around and wait for them to make a drug when we can already consume the whole fruit puree right now with this company and take advantage of that situation before they go and isolate and narrow down a specific ingredient, which is what they have to do to make a drug, and it's never going to be able to compete with the whole fruit puree. That's what happens when you make a drug. You isolate single elements of the drug, but you never get the full potential benefits that you get by consuming the whole fruit. So I want to make that very clear. Whatever they do with it will not be as potent as consuming the whole fruit, because they're going to have to make a lead molecule in order to make a drug, and that is always going to restrict it down to one or two essential molecules, but will never be able to give you the full benefits with all the catechins, xanthones, tannins, parenthocyanidins, quinones, stilbenes, etc. that I mentioned to you. Those are going to get left out. You cannot do that with a drug. So those are some of the limitations. But the research is extensive. It's in the journal of, the New England Journal has researched it, Biochemical Pharmacology, lots of papers, Free Radical Research, the Journal of Pharmacology, the Journal of Enzyme Inhibitors, Environmental Health Perspectives, Planta Medica, another powerful journal, and the Journal of Natural Products. It's also in the European Journal of Pharmacology and the Journal of Phytochemistry. I can go on and on. It's endlessly researched. No point looking at that. What we want people to do now is not become scientists and experts on this, but simply to consume it.
Great. And now tell us a little bit about the moringa.
Well, the moringa tree, or Mercola tree, also known as the drumstick tree based on how it appears, is the most nutrient-dense tree. It's a tree, not a botanical. It's a tree, the most nutrient-dense tree in the world. It's a very fast-growing tree as opposed to the mangosteen that I just mentioned, which is a slow-growing evergreen. This tree grows very quickly and is native to South Asia. It is found in the tropics, and it can be harvested year-round, also unlike the mangosteen. So they're a little bit different. It also has been looked at in Ayurveda. It's highly prized and very expensive as well. The mangosteen is the most expensive fruit in the market, but this fruit is right next in the pecking order of cost, but it is number one as far as its nutrient density. It is also picked up at elevation. For it to grow, it requires high elevation. The Buddhist monks in the Himalayas have been using it for centuries, and they've done a lot of the research on it. If you look it up, there's been a lot of studies on it, in vitro studies, and by that we mean animal studies, namely in rabbits. In the Journal of Ethnopharmacology, there's a very good paper on moringa going over a 12-week study on rabbits, where they looked at what it was able to do there regarding a whole host of cholesterol challenges and other things. And that's exciting. It was also found in Thai papers to be cardiotonic and to have effects on the heart, and also had various other benefits in cholesterol and things of that nature. So it's getting a lot of attention now because of the literature coming out from over 300 plus diseases listed being affected by moringa. And that's not anything connected to the industry. This is independent research that has nothing to do with any of these companies. And that should excite everybody. When you look in the countries of Southeast Asia, Africa, Pakistan, India, the Philippines, Malawi, and Senegal, even especially the Philippines and Ghana in Africa, this plant is highly touted by all of these countries because it grows there. And they've used it as a replacement and substitute for rice because of the nutrient density that it possesses. That allows them to save money because some of these countries can't afford grain and can't afford to pay the cost for bringing in rice because they are third world countries and they just don't have the money, and they're developing countries. So for them, it's more cost effective to use the moringa because of its nutrient density as a substitute for this rice, and for pregnant mothers to also use it to nourish their babies because they may not be able to afford the rice, which is the substitute. So that's exciting, and that, again, should excite everybody on the call. It's that nutrient-rich that they have used it in that way in the countries of Senegal and Malawi, and particularly in Ghana and Thailand as well. So those cultures know what this is. For us in the West, we're new to it because it doesn't grow in our culture, and it does need high elevation.
typical of the Himalayas. Now we give you access to it through a unique marriage with this company, the only company to bring Mangosteen and Moringa together under one roof. Really excited about that. The only company to bring this Moringa from the elevation and to bring Mangosteen from the rainforest belts of the world here into the United States and allow you to, with the tap of a credit card, bring it into your living room. That is exciting. These things are expensive and they are unique. And it's very unique and rare to be able to get your hands on them, let alone consume them. So I hope everybody realizes the value in taking advantage of something that is now available to you that previously was not for 400 plus years, as it stayed in the rainforest and as it stayed in elevation in the Himalayas, and we just couldn't get our hands on it. So you need to really take advantage of this now in the West and really consume it, seeing what we're seeing with this from a clinical standpoint and from looking at it medically with labs. This is exciting stuff. And these areas highly tout this plant at Moringa. It also houses a lot of ingredients. If you look at the tree itself, you will notice that it is very loaded with a lot of stuff, including omega-3s, over 20 amino acids. It has about 36 different anti-inflammatories in there, and a whole host of other nutrients when you look at the material in it. There's something called rhamnotin that we don't often talk about that's in there, very powerful. Camphorol, quercetin, which is a very powerful antibiotic. These antioxidants are very powerful and slow the aging process. We're seeing a lot of research on that. There's something called moringine in there and moringinine also in the fruit that allows it to have tremendous benefits in the body. Polyphenols and phytonutrients, just like mangosteen, are also in there. The omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids, and a whole host of proteins, which is why it can substitute for rice, as I mentioned earlier. Vitamin C is in it, minerals are in it, and fiber is in it. All of this, folks, all of this is endless in one plant. It's the most nutrient-dense tree on the world. If you ask Siri, if you Google it, it comes up as the most nutrient-dense plant on the planet. So we're not making this up. This is a diverse tree, and all of the plant parts are useful. The bark, the leaves, the pods, the seeds. It even liberates something called benzoyl that is very, very healthy, and a lot of you may be familiar with it. And it has been touted in research as an anti-inflammatory, as an anti-pain, a weight loss, and even in some cases, because of something called niacinamide, has been shown in a lot of tumor research as well. So this is exciting stuff for you guys to look at. It can be used as a smoothie, brought as a salad, can be put into a powder form. It can be brought as a soup, and it can also be taken in various other forms depending on the country where it is being consumed. It has even been found in chelation therapy to help with certain poisonings, things like arsenic and all of these other types of poisons seem to be affected when this is taken. It has been shown to be able to absorb them and better allow the patient to recover from this type of challenge. So that's the literature. This is not my opinion. This is what the literature is saying from 300 plus countries that are looking at this. So this is something everybody should be excited about. Moringa has also been looked at by Johns Hopkins and Purdue. It's been endorsed by the Peace Corps. I think Yale University has also done studies on this. People don't realize how extensively this thing has been researched. The World Health Organization, the National Institutes of Health in Washington, D.C. has also done a lot of work on this. Dr. Joshua Plant done a lot of work on this. The Discovery Channel documentaries, very excited about that. We've seen the Discovery Channel even putting on a full documentary on Moringa, and it was also even cleared for the athletes in the NCAAs to use as well, because it does not conflict or is it a drug. It does not impede drug testing or have any stimulant effects that would boost a person's performance. So they've allowed it to come in, and athletes are using it as well.
Fantastic. So you let us know that we can get these products. We can get mangosteen and get moringa into our diets. Now, we know there's always going to be products out there. So many people, to make a buck, are going to manufacture something inferior, but obviously we want to get the goods. So tell us what makes the Zija mangosteen and the Zija moringa stand out from the rest.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, when you look at these two companies, it all boils down to quality control. It all boils down to how they make it. It all boils down to the labs. In the case of Moringa, they have Pharmatech, which is powerful. This is an institution that makes all of their products. They have certification grade, high grade facilities. They've passed all their tests, never failed a single test, not even one time. High pharmaceutical grade testing. Not every company can boost that and boast of that here in America, because it's very rigid, and if you fail it even once, you lose your standing, okay? So to have an organization where the Pharmatech has delivered on this type of standard with making their moringa, it ensures you that you're going to get the highest quality moringa in the marketplace that you're going to find anywhere else in the world. And when you consider that they own 86% of all of the farms organically in the world where moringa is made, that is huge. 86%. So this company has a dominance in the marketplace and has gobbled up all of the organic farms where it is made, and they own 86% of all of these Moringa farms, and therefore have direct access to the highest quality grade of Moringa to make their products from and to source it from. And that is exciting. They also have the highest standings with HEPA filtration and some of these high-tech filtration systems that we use to filter the product and to make sure that it is delivered free of impurities and at the highest standard. I'm not going to get into all the details of HEPA filtration, but believe me, this institution uses it and is one of the few in the industry that can make that claim because it's very expensive. Okay, they spent the money to deliver a quality product to the marketplace. On the Mangosteen side, the same can be held true. That company that we're speaking of has a patent on the product of Mangosteen, and that is unique in the whole industry. No one else has a patent on Mangosteen, and that's another reason you want to look at this because there are many knockoffs. Costco, this one, that one, they all make it, but very few of them are delivering the quality, or do they have doctors and physicians involved in the making of the product, as do these companies. And that should separate the sheep from the goats. So you want a company that has physicians looking at their product, you want companies that have this high-grade certification and testing, and you definitely want companies that spend time and money to bring you the highest quality grade of these materials because I told you they have to come all the way from the rainforest belts and from the Himalayas to get here. So if they're not handled right, and if there's anything not done with the strictest of standards, you're going to have a faulty product. And that is why you don't want to trust it to anybody else in the industry because we specialize in wellness and we make this our business. Everyone else is in it just for profit.
Awesome. Thank you. You shared a lot of wonderful information with us. Before you go, I'd kind of like you to just close with how our listeners can take part in the natural health revolution and how they can play a role in helping the lives of all the people that they know and love.
Yes, I think for our listeners, it's all about making a life of difference. It's about making an impact in the lives of the people we know. Each of you on this line has a sphere of influence. Each of you on this line knows somebody that you can touch that maybe no one else can touch. For example, one of you may be able to talk to a certain individual, and because of who you are, because of their respect for you, because of something they admire about you, or some other aspect of your personality or character, that person may try a product, whereas if someone else came up to them with the exact same opportunity and the exact same product, they would not participate. And that is something we take for granted. So everyone's important on this call. Each of us has a role to play. And I don't think it's by fluke or that it's by chance that those who are involved are involved. I really believe this. So we all have a role to play. Everyone's important. Everybody can empower and uplift somebody. And everyone has the ability to touch somebody through this type of opportunity by turning them on to things that they may never have been aware of. They may not have known about all of this science and research. And that person may only get involved because you approach them. And then you start off a chain effect where that person then tells someone else who tells someone else. And if any single person in that chain did not share the opportunity, then 10,000 other people behind them would not have gotten the product. That is what I look at, and that is something we have to realize, which is why you can't take this literally lightly, because your decision not to tell somebody could affect 10,000 people after that person had you told them, because now they won't be able to tell them. And when I think about that, it spurs me on to share the message, and I want each of you to realize your power and your influence. We look at people who live lives where they did this type of thing. Albert Schweitzer was a good example. He was a doctor, a philosopher, an organist, a pianist, a whole guy did so much in his life, but gave his life to the people of Gabon in Africa as a medical missionary. And I think that all of us should be thinking to ourselves, what are we doing each day to help others? What are we doing on a day-to-day basis so that others' lives are impacted? How can we help others and not just take something because we think we're going to benefit from it, but we're doing it because we care for other human beings, and what we all share in common is the human condition. And we all have that condition in common. And so what we're saying is, we would like you to come into this with an empathetic mind, with the ability to know that you can share something powerful with many who don't know it. And because of who you are and because of what you bring to the table, you may otherwise move somebody who may later on move 10,000 others, simply because of your story. And that, folks, is powerful when you realize what I'm saying. And just like Albert Schweitzer died giving his life to the peoples of Africa as a missionary, we each should be looking each day in our own way to touch lives and do similar for the people that we know and love around us. And this opportunity affords you that. Mangosteen moringa is powerful as a fruit, as an antioxidant, and from a botanical standpoint, we are not seeing anything else stepping up in the scientific arena right now at this time in this place, especially with this unique company, the only source where the two are married as one. The only one. No other company can offer that at this time. And that makes this a unique opportunity for those who understand what we're talking about from a health perspective. We're strictly looking at it from a health perspective. And that should be the message. So you're going to touch other lives, you're going to turn other people on to health, bring them over to the reactive side, and get them away from just taking a tablet and running to the doctor after the fact, when in fact they can live a proactive life on the front of the 8 ball, preventing disease and illness, as opposed to spending their entire life savings after the fact running to the doctor and hoping that they're not going to be hit with a huge bill that wipes out their entire life savings. This is huge. If you listen to what I'm saying, this is a powerful message, and we have to take it as such. And as a doctor seeing this, I left traditional medicine to come over to wellness because of it. I've dedicated 10 years of my life to this because I see that this is making a more valuable impact, and wellness is only going to continue to increase as more and more people become knowledgeable thanks to the internet and to the knowledge that blow and information age that we're seeing. More people are looking for answers. The millennials, the Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z groups are looking actively, and you have the solution with these botanicals. And this is what they want. They want to avoid the mistakes of mommy and daddy, like I said before. And they're looking for anything in any form from anywhere that can help them do that and at a lower cost, and to help them avoid the side effects of the drugs that they're already playing with. And that, folks, should have everybody excited, because it's a win-win for everybody, and it allows you to touch lives and to turn people on to their health and wellness. It's like I said to somebody the other day, it's like putting Jesus in a bottle. Some of you, if we put Jesus in a bottle and offer it to you, you still wouldn't take it. You would find a reason not to drink it. And here we have it, just that, in a bottle, and I'm begging you to share that with those individuals that are willing to take it. Now, we can't force it on anybody, and that's not our job, but it's our job to share it. To me, it's a cardinal sin. It's a cardinal sin to sit on information like this that has life-changing benefits like this in 56-plus countries and not share it with your neighbor. You definitely want to share it with your relatives. You definitely want to share it with all of your people in the sphere that you care about, and you should also want to share it with humanity in general, just as a good human being. Nothing to do with profits, nothing to do with money and what am I going to get. It's just a matter of sharing something that they just might not have known about. If you get this, then you belong in this wellness revolution. You are a part of the natural health revolution. You belong with this company and with our mission, and you align yourself with those who turn you on to this message such that you can get back to them and start to consume this on a day-to-day basis. One problem I noted as I close, a lot of people who do take these products don't take it long enough. You really need to flood your body with these materials, just like you would with a drug. You would take it for 40 years. Some of you have been doing that, and you still have 40 years worth of diabetes. It didn't go away on the drug, but you keep taking it every day. But if we ask you to supplement, you drink it for 2 weeks and run away and expect that, oh, it didn't help me. No, you drank it only for 2 weeks. This is powerful. We have to see the value in taking it consistently for at least 60 to 90 days to give the body a chance to really return and go back through some of those stages that is required for healing to take place. So it's not that it's not helping you. You're just not consuming enough of it consistently enough to get the benefit. And for a lot of you on the call, this is very important. That's why I'm sticking it at the end, because we don't consume it enough because we're looking at the cost. And back to the cost, we think it's too expensive, so we only take it until we feel better. And the minute we feel better, we run away from the supplement. And that, folks, is suicide in this business. You can't do that. You have to continue to take it looking for the benefit, just like you would with your drug that never took care of your diabetes for 40 years, and you're still taking it every day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Edwards. Great information. I hope everyone on this call decides to be part of the natural health revolution, to be proactive in your health, to use the Mangosteen and the Moringa. Do it for the 90 days and see how your life can change. Share the message with the world. I would like to close out with a disclaimer. The information provided here is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate any disease or health condition. No health claims or income claims are made herein. Please see your licensed healthcare practitioner before starting any form of supplementing, including the use of Mangosteen and Moringa. These supplements are only meant to be used as an adjunct to what you are already doing with your doctor. Do not stop your medications or attempt to replace them with these supplements. Results are not typical and may vary from one person to another.